2, 3. There we go.
Dollars comes back. Will $50 billion go into the general fund of the United States?
The way the TARP is designed, and I didn't design this, but the way it's designed is every dollar that comes back goes into the general fund, but that does still create additional headroom under the $700 billion authority for us to make capital investments, make investments. So we have the ability to still use the $700 billion if we think there's a strong case for doing that. But the way the program works is the dollar comes in, goes to the general fund, but still creates additional room for us to make a new.
So your understanding of what we did is that the Treasury now has $700 billion that it can use permanently, rotating in and out of the capital markets as you see fit.
I'm not quite sure of permanent, but you're right.
Are you working on a plan to show us of how you are going to move out of all of this market, the ownership of General Motors, the ownership of AIG,
Listen to this one.
All the money in the private banking? I mean, you've got a plan.
Senator, I would, as I said to Ranking Member Shelby at the beginning, this is a very important issue to me. We think about this a lot, and there will be a time when we will be able to come to you and say, here's how the unwinding process will work. But it's too early to do that now.
Yeah, basically, let me interpret that last statement for you. When hell freezes over.
Yeah, and what they're going to do is they're going to use it under the executive order for Working Group and Financial Markets to rig markets. And that's why we have to get rid of the Federal Reserve. That's why Ron Paul's bill, 190 co-sponsors now, 1207, has got to get passed. We've got to get that legislation, and behind that, we got to get rid of the Fed, but that legislation's already in process. And then, besides that, we have to get tariffs on goods and services. If we can do those things, we can save the country. If we can't, it's gone. And incidentally, he mentioned Shelby. Shelby, this must have been a joint session because Shelby is a senator, isn't he?
Yes, he is. From
Okay.
Alabama, I believe.
Now listen to this. There was similar moves being made in the Senate, and I have it in the issue that's probably coming out tomorrow. I think it's in there, or it was in Saturday's. I can't keep track of it because I write so much and talk too much. Anyway, Shelby stopped similar type amendments that were attached to a bill by, is it Grassley?
Chuck Grassley.
Yes, and he put amendments on this bill that was going through, and Shelby said, in private, they had a meeting, you can't do this, and watered the whole thing down. Now, I don't know whether Shelby did it because he didn't want anything like that passing in the Senate, or whether he said to Grassley, if you put these on, then that'll be an excuse not to pass the legislation that Ron Paul's put up via the senator from New Hampshire.
Used to be the independent guy. I'll think of his name here in a second. Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
No, he's from.
So I don't know what exactly is going on.
You said
I don't know who the good guys and the bad guys are, but something's going on there.
Bernie Sanders from Vermont.
Okay.
Kucinich today subpoenaed the Federal Reserve to produce documents pertaining to, I believe it was the original TARP, which, Bob, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, there's a lot of chatter out there about the real reasons behind the Paulson-Bernanke pressuring of the Finance Committee was not so much to save the banking system, but pretty much just to save Citibank. But they couldn't come out and just save Citibank on its own. They had to disguise it by forcing all the other banks, as witnessed today. Obviously, we hear that most of the major players in that game are now paying back the government. because they didn't need the money in the first place, which, once again, just makes a stronger case that whole bailout that was engineered by Paulson, which, by the way, the Wall Street Journal is now electing him a national hero, was all done to avoid Citibank completely imploding.
Well, I can believe that, and well, I'll wait till you guys come back.
All right. Yeah, and I also have an update. I talked to Ron Paul's office in D.C. about 45 minutes ago, and I'll expound on what Bob Chapman was telling you. We'll be right back. You know, I dare say, Robbie, have you ever heard this song played on any AM or FM radio station before?
No.
And I'll tell you the reason why. Crosby of Crosby, Stills, and Nash a couple of years ago got together with another band, and they made a CD. And this was, to my surprise, I didn't know Crosby was patriotic, and evidently he is, actually did this song on that CD, which blew me away. And there's another song on it as well that it's extremely, by today's standards, patriotic. So just kind of fascinating.
Yeah, patriotism comes in all strange forms these days.
I'm telling you. By the way, I wanted to mention something before I forgot this. Steve Ratner, I had Greg Palast on last Friday for about a half hour, and he wrote this scathing article about Steve Ratner and the fix that's going on with the car companies.
The rat.
The rat. That is exactly what he called him. And he said that, look, he said these pension funds, he said what they did was blatantly underhanded, over-the-top illegal, because the pension funds have a fiduciary responsibility to the people that, well, their money is in those accounts. And you just can't walk into a retirement fund and just go, okay, switcho, changeo. You know, we're revaluing, or we're taking, or this is what you have left, or whatever. Totally, 100% illegal to do it. And Greg Palast was all over that one.
Yeah, it's the ERISA Act of 1974, and it's all illegal. And I'm sure he told you that in the program.
Yeah.
And that was excellent journalism, really good. And it just opened that can of worms wide open. I carried that in the forecaster for tomorrow's issue as well.
Good.
Either that or it was in Saturday. I can't keep track of them all. I mean, there's so much information coming out by good writers. I don't write about certain things because other guys have already, and ladies, have already written about it as good, if not better than I can. So I put the links in. Yeah. So every issue's got 15 to 20 links in it. But look at the information you get. It's enormous.
Well, Bob, I'm going to tell you what. It was almost like you have a team of people sitting down there to do nothing else but help you put that newsletter together. But that's not the case. It's you and your wife. And you've done an outstanding job. Folks, you get the International Forecaster. I mean, it'll keep you reading for quite some time. You'll be on informational overload if you're not careful, but it's all pertinent and very good information. And the beauty of this is you're not listening to, if you're just joining us for the first time, you're not listening here to just some radio talk show host talking with another host that's talking to Bob Chapman. This guy has been in the mix for so many years. I almost don't dare count them because it'll age Bob. But here he is, all these years later, pumping out this information. But more importantly, with the foresight and the wisdom to make sense out of a lot of things that are going on and put these things together. Bob, I don't commend you enough for the work that you do.
Well, you got to commend the other three guys, G. Edward Griffith and Alan Stang and Anthony J. Hilder.
There you go.
Sometimes
because we all started at the same time doing the same thing, and it was Gary Allen too. But unfortunately, over 20 years ago, Gary died, and but we were all in the forefront.
And we got Alan Stang right on this network from 11 to 1 every day.
Alan's had a tough time, believe me.
I'm telling you.
The government gave him even more trouble than they gave me.
And he's still alive and kicking and still plugging every single day of the week. Now, folks, that's commitment. And that's what we're talking about here, is stick-to-itiveness and commitment.